Absolutely. The fact that people don't believe that Elon is serious about taking this company over just proves how many people don't really understand Elon after all these years.
Of course, the number 42 means something to Elon. I think all roads lead to $42. And I would put myself safely on the ledger that says that I do believe he is going to acquire Twitter.
In this video, Tesla stock surges again as Elon Musk squeezes Twitter by the balls. First, Tesla stock surging higher today, up almost 7.5%, nearly $50 per share. It's been a very bumpy week. We can see here Tesla stock last 5 days actually down almost 1%, but boy oh boy, hasn't it been a volatile ride. Peak to trough in the last 5 days, Tesla stock down around 13% and then surging about another 13% to be basically flat. Let me know in the comments if anyone was buying during the dip. As I mentioned, I didn't have a whole lot of money, just enough for one share, but I did buy at $621. Nasdaq 100 today up almost 3%. The market overall, very positive. ARK Invest flagship fund up almost 4%. Amazon 4%. Alphabet, Google's parent company, almost 2%. The Saudi EV maker up over 8%. Rivian almost 8%. Nvidia up over 5%. Even Netflix joining the party up almost 2%. In other words, a sea of green. Can't wait to see what tomorrow brings. By the way, just a real quick heads up to my Patreon supporters. Get your questions in now for the latest Q&A. I'll be recording it very shortly, so time is ticking. Now, let's get into the video. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment theme merch in the merch store, so check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. So in just a moment, we'll hear from two long-term Tesla bulls discussing the Twitter acquisition, their thoughts, and how it relates to Tesla and Tesla stock. But first, let's watch as Elon Musk continues to tighten his vice-like grip on the balls of Twitter. Quote, Twitter will pay a $150 million fine over accusations it improperly sold user data. Well, Twitter doing something improper is a true shock. Let's read on. Twitter has agreed to pay a $150 million fine after federal law enforcement officials accused the social media company of illegally, by the way, let's just underscore this, of illegally using people's personal data over 6 years to help sell targeted advertisements. In court documents made public on Wednesday, the Federal Trade Commission and the Department of Justice say Twitter violated a 2011 agreement with regulators in which the company vowed to not use information gathered for security purposes, like users' phone numbers and email addresses, to help advertisers target people with ads. Federal investigators, I want to underscore that as well, federal investigators, not some loser living in their mum's basement, federal investigators say Twitter broke that promise. Quote, as the complaint notes, Twitter obtained data from users on the pretext, and this is very important to understand, on the pretext of harnessing it for security purposes, but then ended up also using the data to target users with ads, said Federal Trade Commission Chair Lena Khan. Twitter requires users to provide a telephone number and email address to authenticate accounts. That information also helps people reset their passwords and unlock their accounts when the company blocks logging in due to suspicious activity. But until at least September 2019, Twitter was also using that information to boost its advertising business by allowing advertisers access to users' phone numbers and email addresses. What the actual That ran afoul of the agreement the company had with regulators, surprisingly. If you're telling people you're using their phone numbers to secure their accounts, and then you use them for other purposes, you're deceiving them and breaking the law. More than 140 million Twitter users provided this kind of information based on Twitter's deceptive statements, which means the fine is equating to about $1 per user who got fucked by Twitter. Doesn't seem like much of a fine, does it? Quote, consumers who share their private information have a right to know if that information is being used to help advertisers target customers. I mean, fair point. Twitter's chief privacy invasion officer, Damian Kieran, acknowledged in a blog post that users' personal information, quote, may have been inadvertently, oh my god, what an accident, we accidentally, inadvertently used users' information for advertising. Oh, what a silly mistake. I wonder how that happened. That was so silly. He said, this is hard. He said the company is no longer selling information gathered for security purposes to advertisers. Well, isn't that good to know? Shame they ever did. Quote, keeping data secure and respecting privacy is something we take extremely seriously, as evidenced by their track record and the gigantic $150 million fine, just demonstrating how seriously they do and did take this matter of security and privacy. And we have cooperated with the FTC every step of the way. Now, let's just take a moment here. If you as a company are at a point where you're cooperating with the Federal Trade Commission who are investigating you for breaking the law, failing to secure and respect people's privacy, it almost seems like this quote of claiming that you take this stuff seriously is contradictory or flat out false. If you did take this stuff seriously, you probably wouldn't be needing to cooperate with the FTC. Just saying. Under terms of a proposed agreement, Twitter agreed to stop profiting from information gathered for security purposes. Oh, how noble of you, Twitter. Isn't that amazing? Twitter's agreed to stop profiting from information that they tricked users into providing to illegally sell them advertising. Oh, good on you, Twitter. What an upstanding company. A true role model. The deal, which still needs the court's approval, would also limit employees' access to users' personal data. What a crazy idea. The action echoes a sweeping settlement with the FTC that included a $5 billion fine against Facebook in 2019, in which the social media giant committed to stop sharing information obtained for security purposes with advertisers. Wow, I mean, two stand-up companies here, Twitter and Facebook. Amazing stuff. We'll talk more about Facebook in a moment too. Under the terms of the FTC's deal with Twitter, regulators and an independent monitor will have oversight of the company's advertising practices for 2 decades. I think the moral of the story here is if you f*** users, you'll eventually get f***ed too for the next 2 decades. The settlement comes during a precarious time at Twitter. The company has been in a state of crisis since Tesla CEO Elon Musk launched a $44 billion hostile takeover of the social media site last month. Musk recently declared the deal is temporarily on hold, arguing that he must first determine how widespread bot accounts are on the site. But corporate merger experts have noted that the deal is still moving forward since Musk is in a legally binding contract with the company pending shareholder and regulatory review. Musk has not yet commented on Wednesday's settlement. Oh, yes he has. By the way, in fairness, when this article was written, he hadn't actually commented, but soon after, things changed. So here we are over on Twitter, Elon Musk replying to some guy with 3 first names who was sharing this article. Quote, if Twitter was not truthful here, what else is not true? This is very concerning news. And I'd like to provide a little bit more context here. As somebody who cares deeply about privacy, and I mean more than you can imagine. By the way, shout out to my old man who got us on the internet back in 1993 and immediately warned me about the importance of maintaining your privacy on the internet. Let's read this thread regarding the $150 million fine, Twitter, deceptively collecting users' information to sell targeted advertising. Quote, this should surprise no one. I am often badgered to provide my date of birth so Twitter can make more money selling targeted ads under the guise of wanting to ensure I don't see inappropriate content. This is a dishonest business practice, and here's a screenshot that I prepared earlier. I see this all the fucking time. Quote, age-restricted adult content. This content might not be appropriate for everyone. To view this media, you'll need to add your birth date to your profile. Of course, people who don't think about online privacy, you can have my birth date, no problems, I want to see this tweet. Meanwhile, this guy's like, no, go f*** yourself, I know what you're doing. That's why I still see this message all the time, because I refuse to give Twitter information they do not need. You silly motherfuckers. At this point, most people have clicked and given Twitter their information so they can sell targeted ads. They may not even continue reading. Twitter also uses your age to show more relevant content, including ads, as explained in our privacy policy. Interesting. How convenient. We need your date of birth to make sure you can see this content. It's got nothing to do with selling shit to advertisers. Let's read more of this tweet thread. This is almost as bad as the original Facebook terms of service. I actually read everything before signing up and was stunned to find that failure to provide my full legal name could result in immediate termination of my account. Obviously, a huge red flag, and obviously they did not get what they wanted. By the way, my ultimate troll on Facebook after signing up under a name that isn't my legal name, ripped my Facebook account, was to set my marital status to engaged. So I constantly got badgered with ads for weddings and all sorts of shit like that. I wasn't engaged. If you're going to be sketchy and sell my shit to advertisers, I'm going to troll you as hard as I possibly can, so you're wasting resources, you pieces of shit. By the way, that goes for any company or anyone who ever asks for any information that they shouldn't need from me. They don't get it. Ever. 3. If Twitter cares about shielding under 18s from sensitive content, they should ask users to tick a box confirming they're over 18. But they don't want to know if you're over 18. They want to know how old you are to target ads. And finally, some dingbat is going to say, but you could lie and just tick the I'm over 18 box even if you're not over 18, so this won't work. To you, I respond the only thing not working is your brain. You can make up a fake birthday too, so this argument is a non-starter. Hopefully over the past few weeks, you guys and girls have noticed that Elon continues to discover new and disturbing things relating to Twitter and their apparent honesty, or perhaps lack thereof, not just the bot issue. All roads point to Elon Musk renegotiating the price to purchase Twitter significantly lower. We are watching a master of negotiation with a gigantic brain in action. And on that note, let's head over to a couple of Tesla bulls to hear their thoughts on Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter, what it means for Tesla, and the ultimate purchase price.
Welcome back to Fast Money. Twitter shares jumping in the after hours. A new filing suggesting that Elon Musk is committed to doing a deal and is seeking additional funding. Let's bring in Fast Money friend Gene Munster of Loop Ventures. Gene, what's your take on these developments?
Melissa, I think it is evidence that Elon wants to pursue this transaction. It does not tell us what the price is. I would be shocked, Melissa, if he pays $54 for this. I still think the number is $42, but it is a step in the right direction. Just quickly, how do you get to $42 is that if you look at what the market has done, the NASDAQ, since he announced this on April 1st, down 19%. Of course, the number 42 means something to Elon. I think all roads lead to $42. And I would put myself safely on the ledger that says that I do believe he is going to acquire Twitter.
I definitely agree with Gene Munster here. Not only that all roads lead to $42 for the final purchase price, but in addition, Elon is super serious and will close this transaction. Sure, there may be a walk away, a comeback, renegotiate, but at the end of the day, Elon is super serious. This makes the most sense. I would say a 90+% chance that this transaction completes and a 90+% chance that it completes significantly below the 54.20, more likely at 42, give or take. And by give or take, I mean it'll either be 42 or 42.69.
And just one further piece I think this plays into, if you even think about Elon, his behavior over the last few weeks since this has been announced, it has become increasingly political, and I think that that is another rev to the benefit of him owning Twitter. It's a powerful political voice that he can have with Twitter. And so ultimately, I think that this is a step in the right direction at $42.
Twitter had a shareholder meeting as well, Gene. Did they say anything about this whole thing? And I would imagine that Twitter, if he wanted to renegotiate lower, Twitter doesn't have that much of a choice at this point. I think Twitter looks like a worse company today than it did before if Elon Musk walks.
Absolutely. He's done a good job of really spoiling how investors think about Twitter, how they think about Twitter's management team.
This is a really, really good point. Elon has exposed Twitter, their management team, the lack of skin in the game within the board of Twitter. Basically, Elon Musk has been shining a torch in all the dark areas in Twitter's business and revealing that it is an absolute dumpster fire of a company at this point in time. There's no going back from this point. Whatever happens with this deal, whether it closes or not, there's no coming back from this for Twitter. Elon has exposed just how much fixing needs to be done.
I think it's evidence of what popularity can get you. Elon has 93 million followers on Twitter. Parag, the CEO, has about 700,000 followers. That mass, I think, is sprinkled in many investors, and I would agree, investors' belief in this. Also, the core business has deteriorated, not just because of what potentially could be going on with some of the advertising components. We didn't get any negative updates on that front today, but also the distraction. We've talked about that before. So you have to imagine that Elon has done a successful role here in terms of negotiating a lower price. And I think that if this doesn't happen, the stock is $25. That's, I think, a conservative view of where this would go.
So Munster, they're expecting that if the deal doesn't proceed, Twitter stock collapses 30-40+%. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see this play out.
Hey, Gene, it's Karen. If you really feel strongly 42 is the price it ends up, the stock's $39.54 now. It would seem like a really good short at that level because it's hard to have a huge degree of certainty that Elon will close. And if he doesn't close and he sells his shares, I think that 25 might be the upside for Twitter in the short term.
Is it just me, or did Karen just suggest that it'd be a really good idea to short Twitter stock? Because if the deal doesn't close, the stock gets wrecked? I have a question, Karen. What if the deal does close? What happens to your short position then? That is probably a good question to ask. Like, as I said, the probability of the deal closing, in my opinion, is 90+%.
I do not think that this is worthy of investing and trading. I think you just kind of stand clear and enjoy the fireworks of how this is going to play out.
Munster and I are on the same page here. I'll happily be watching from the sideline, munching my popcorn and enjoying the fireworks.
Are you for or against?
Oh, I'm for it 100%. I mean, I can't wait for it to happen. I think Elon's going to do a phenomenal job fixing this wonderful asset.
So have you increased your Twitter position since the sell-off, and are you continuing to boost it ahead of this deal?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The fact that people don't believe that Elon is serious about taking this company over just proves how many people don't really understand Elon after all these years.
Great point. Totally agree. It stunned me that so many people in the media especially were unsure as to whether or not Elon was serious about buying Twitter, unsure as to whether he genuinely cares about upholding the principle of free speech. This is a great barometer for how little someone understands Elon Musk.
I very much believe he's going to complete the deal.
So look, some shareholders are excited like you. Some shareholders are skeptical. Natasha Lamb, as I've mentioned, very skeptical about how Elon Musk will handle free speech, human rights, civil rights issues. What do you think about those more nuanced and very complicated issues?
Well, I think that it's silly to think that Elon Musk's new job is going to be the arbitrator of free speech on Twitter. That's not his goal in taking over the company. I think what he's trying to do is put in a management team and a transparent system so that the users of Twitter fully understand what and what isn't allowed on the platform. What I think most people are upset about, including myself with Twitter, is just the sort of arbitrary nature that decisions are made and the lack of transparency. And I think by bringing transparency, which he's already been pushing really hard on Twitter, at Twitter, to get more transparency, I think will be very beneficial for the users of Twitter.
Now, interestingly, we heard Parag Agrawal reiterate the company's mission to serve a diversity of views. But earlier this month, Elon Musk announced that he will be voting Republican. How does that strike you? Is that good for Twitter?
The f*** even is that question? What? She did just, okay, so let me just recap. Maybe I'm an idiot, maybe I'm hallucinating. She did just say that CEO of Twitter, Parag Agrawal, was talking about Twitter's desire to serve a variety of people, variety of opinions, blah, 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 blah. And then went on to say, but Elon Musk has just announced that he'll be voting Republican. Almost suggesting that there's a contradiction. If you vote Republican, you can't be interested in having a diversity of opinions on the platform of Twitter. I really don't understand what that was all about. Can somebody please explain below? I'm really not connecting the dots here. Unless, of course, the connotation, the undertone is that people who vote Republican don't want a diversity of opinions. I really am confused here. I must just be dumb.
Elon and I are in the same camp here. We're both ex-Democrats, and I'm never going to be a Republican because I can't stand them. But I've become an independent voter, and I think what Elon is saying is true. I worked very, very hard to get Joe Biden in as president, and I'm a very big believer in the values that the Democrats represent, and they've achieved nothing. They've achieved none of the agenda that they set out to achieve.
Absolutely spot on. Now, Ross says a lot of things I vehemently disagree with, but he's absolutely hit the nail on the head here. On paper, the Biden presidency so far has been an absolute disaster. They've done nothing they said they would. It has been a complete train wreck. And this isn't somebody with a political bias. I'm not partisan. I'm not this or that. I'm just pointing out it's been an absolute fucking joke. Yeah, we care about the environment. That's why we'll have a blanket ban on even mentioning the word Tesla. We won't invite them to the EV summit. We'll propose extremely corrupt incentives for union-made vehicles so we can fuck Tesla. We'll attack Elon Musk and billionaires for not paying their fair share of taxes. We'll demonize people for having to go in the United States and pursuing the American dream. We'll claim to be all about unity and inclusion, but demonize and divide. And if any folks out there doubt that the Democrats have failed abysmally and fulfill any of their campaign promises whatsoever, just watch them get completely and utterly annihilated in the upcoming midterm elections. That was so good from Ross, we need to hear it again.
The Democrats represent, and they've achieved nothing. They've achieved none of the agenda that they set out to achieve, and they've really disappointed big supporters like myself, and especially entrepreneurs who they've attacked and constantly saying that we don't pay our fair share when we do. And so it's just, they've pushed especially successful entrepreneurs out of the Democratic Party, and I'm one of them too.
Well, speaking about a big-time entrepreneur who is now out at Twitter, Jack Dorsey, the era of Jack Dorsey is officially over. We knew this was coming, no formal role at the company now, but, we can assume he will still have some influence. His tweets will carry some influence. What do you think is the significance of Jack leaving?
Well, I think he'll be back.
How so?
Well, I think he's going to.
What do you mean?
I think he's in with this Elon stuff. I mean, I would be surprised if he's not working with Elon at all. He seems to be on Twitter, sort of jumping on the arguments that Elon's are making and seem to be defending Elon's positions. So I'm not really sure what's next for Jack. I think he's really focused on Square, which as a Square shareholder, I want him to be. And I think he'll play a role in the new Twitter. And then with Twitter, it's really, to me, the news. So it serves a completely different demographic than the Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook demo. And it really serves people who are looking for information. And therefore, to me, it's a much more powerful and valuable platform. And in fact, Twitter is probably the most valuable, information platform, in the world. And if you look at the depth of the global leaders and users, there really is nothing like it. And as an investor, I can't even imagine trying to be an investor and not use Twitter. So I think Twitter has a lot more intrinsic value than the other platforms.
This is a big statement from Ross, although I think he is actually onto something. Now, don't get me wrong, the market capitalizations of other social media platforms may be higher, they may do more revenue, make more profits, but at a fundamental level, I think Twitter has far more intrinsic value than any other social media platform today. Maybe I'm biased because Twitter is my main platform outside of YouTube, but the reason that I'm on Twitter 24/7 is to learn and access information and share thoughts, opinions, and ideas. The reason that I'm not on Instagram 24/7 is because I have no interest in scrolling through booty pics 24/7, although my DMs are always open. So, hope you guys and girls have enjoyed the video. I'm very curious. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys and girls think? Will the Twitter deal close, and if so, at what price? And finally, don't forget submissions for the latest Q&A on Patreon closing very soon, so get your questions in now. And if you're not already on Patreon, 1, what are you doing with your life? And 2, you can join with the card in the corner or the link in the pinned comment. You'll gain access to well over 100 exclusive Q&A videos, dozens of other exclusive videos, pieces of content, plenty of perks, plus up-to-date access to my Tesla price targets. So, see you over on Patreon. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel, and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.